Hello everybody. Today we're going to be talking about a few games that I've been following closely that I actually care about. Some of it's going to be good news, some of it's going to be worrying news, and the last segment, which will just be speculation. And basically, these are three AA to AAA games that I have been following. Well, I guess they're all AAA games, aren't they? Would Europa Universalis 5 and City Skylines be considered AAA games? I'm actually not sure. Hmm. In any case, we're going to be talking a little bit about them, about Paradox Interactive in total as a whole, and we're going to be speculating about my favorite game of the past year, which has been Path of Exile 2. So I'll get straight into it. I don't want this video to be too long. I don't have any insider information or any extra information that I can give you, but I just want to talk about games. Playing games is fun. Making videos about playing games is a lot of fun, but I also enjoy talking about games. And well, I figured, you know what, I'll do one of these videos every now and then when there's news about franchises or games I follow. And we'll start straight off with some Europa Universalis 5 news. And those of you who followed the channel, who follow my very limited Europa Universalis content, will have seen my video from a few days ago about how I'm stopping my Europa Universalis campaigns for now, just because I like the game as a base, but there's clearly a lot of polish that's needed. It's clearly very incomplete. Like, it's a full release game, but honestly, if it was a smaller studio, it would definitely be early access, it feels like. But at the end of that video, I said that things were looking good because the dev team promised weekly updates, and so far, they've been delivering them quite frequently and punctually, I would say. Now, I'm not going to go through this whole patch notes. It'll take, like, this is a whole video on its own, and frankly, I don't think it really matters, because I think the most important line here is the fact that more bugs are being squashed. Again, if you watched my playthrough, I had a lot of problems with the Hanseatic League. They're not really complete. They don't work properly. You can go to war with them, but there's nothing you can really... there's nothing you can generate war score with them unless they're allied to somebody who then you can try defeating. And another way is to give the Hanseatic League regions and then quickly invade that. So just a lot of gamey things and a lot of workarounds to try and pull yourself through out of situations you'd rather not be in. And well, they're slowly fixing that. And while this patch by itself won't be enough to bring me in, it's good to see them. I mean, it's a big patch, 620 bugs. I've read through this. The general gist of it is they've fixed a lot of the AI behavior, which is important. A lot of what the AI tries to prioritize. Certain events firing off at wrong times, certain leaders dying too soon or dying too late and leaving the game in strange positions. And this is all expected from a Europa Universalis game, right? Especially a game which basically combines a little bit of Crusader Kings and a little bit of previous Europa Universalis games. Not just 4, but there's definitely elements of 3 in there as well. And those systems are going to clash. There's so many layers of systems that interact with each other. And Victoria 3, I was going to say. There's also a lot of Victoria 3 in there. And when you have so many systems that intertwine with each other, it offers a very, very, very rich and fun gameplay loop. But at the same time, any problems, any small bugs will destroy the whole experience. So I haven't seen anything regarding the Hanseatic League in this particular patch, but what I do like to see is I was reading about a lot of problems with the Ottoman campaign. There were apparently a lot of problems with several of the situations, especially the Japanese and Chinese ones. I saw a lot of grief about that. And I actually tried playing the Japanese game, and I just ran into... I can't even describe why it felt incomplete. It's just nothing. You feel like an event will fire off and you feel like something should happen, but it doesn't really happen. And then you get offers out of nowhere. Suddenly the same kingdom will keep appealing to you for certain things. They'll be initiating votes all the time. If you're in the Holy Roman Empire, or you try and go into a defensive alliance with somebody in the Holy Roman Empire. I'm sure it's the same for all the other big organization memberships. You're constantly getting triggered votes on membership or votes on rules of engagement, and it's just over and over again, and you keep clicking the same things. Some of the historical events, it's just the same pop-up that comes up over and over and over again, and you have to keep responding to the same thing over and over again, and those things are really frustrating. It takes you out of the game, and the biggest strength of any of these Paradox Grand Strategy games are the fact that it really draws you in. If you can get immersed in them, it takes you on a wonderful journey for tens and tens of hours. But right now, there are too many things that break the immersion and take you out. But I'm glad to see they're tackling the big issues. This could have just been a patch like, oh yeah, we just fixed a bunch of bugs and we're watching things. No, they went in deep. They're fixing. I'm seeing fixes to the Chinese situations. Like I said, the Ottoman situations, 100 Years War. I haven't played that personally, but I've seen a lot of problems with it. Red Turban Rebellions. I imagine this is also a Chinese thing. If the Yellow Turban Rebellion is a Chinese thing, maybe the Red Turban is also a Chinese thing. I'm not sure. But it's good. This is all very good. And honestly, as far as highlights go, it's all fine. Now, in terms of additions to the game, there aren't a lot of actual additions. But we don't need additions just yet. Again, there's way too much content in the game that simply doesn't work together very well. And if we can oil those systems up so they interact with each other, and if we keep getting patches like this every week, even once every couple of weeks, which I imagine will happen after a month or so. After Christmas, I imagine the frequency of these patches will slow down quite a bit. But it is good to see, especially on the back of several Paradox games that I've been playing religiously and I've loved over the past few years. At least these patches and these updates are coming very frequently. Those of you who've played... Sorry, my cat was just wandering around and I tried to pick her up, but she's very smart. She understands from my shift on my chair what I'm going to do, and she ran away immediately. Those of you who've followed Paradox projects over the last 5 years, such as the initial initial release and support of Crusader Kings 3, it was weak. They released a game called Imperius to Rome, which, in my opinion, is still a fantastic game that I wish wasn't abandoned. There was so much potential there, but they just never went anywhere with it, and then they just abandoned it. I personally would keep refreshing the forums over and over again, try to go to the Steam news page and refreshing it over and over again to see if there are any updates, and we wouldn't really get any. So this is encouraging, but at the same time, of course, they're going to support Europa Universalis 5 like this. It's their biggest, I would say, well, what I thought was their biggest franchise. Turns out it's not their biggest franchise. It's the Europa Universalis series is their second biggest franchise. The first biggest franchise they have is, which we will be talking about in the second part of this, City Skylines 2. Which actually ties in well here. Those of you who love city builders, modern city builders, and who loved City Skylines 1, such as me, despite the many, many problems we had over the years, City Skylines 2 release was very disappointing. But in the back of my head, I was always feeling like they would pick it up about a year or two into it, because I remember the release of City Skylines 1, and it was rough. Performance was bad, and this is 10 years ago, right? Performance was bad. There were a lot of issues with the mods initially, but they fixed all those things very quickly. And the biggest problem with the game was there were problems with the simulation, but most of it was fixed with mods. With City Skylines 2, we didn't even get mods. Which, I guess now that I'm talking about it, it's a good segue to move over to talking about City Skylines 2, which is my second topic. But actually, before I do that, just to wrap things up here, it's encouraging to see them supporting it. It's encouraging to see patches this large. For those of you who don't know, Paradox Interactive went through a leadership change a couple of years ago. And since then, they've stepped their game up quite a bit, but they've still been very slow, like I said, with games like City Skylines 2 and Imperator Rome, but those problems started out with the previous management, and there were a lot of problems, you could tell. They had a disastrous financial year a couple of years ago where they actually made they actually made a huge deficit because of all the cancellations and all the problems. And all of their sub games also didn't do very well, but they've been slowly on the rise. Except for City Skylines 2. Now this has been a disaster. They actually released an update here today talking about how Colossal Order made City Skylines 1. And they were under the wing of Paradox, who supported the game, and that game did really well. They sold tens and tens of DLCs, they made a lot of money, and a lot of us love that game, and I still do love that game. But City Skylines 2 was the perfect promise. It was everything we were hoping for to see in a modern city builder, and it was all there. We were all very excited about it. And it just didn't release right. And while a lot of people were disappointed, the general consensus was, you know what, we'll give it a year, and then a couple of DLCs and we'll figure it out. They couldn't even release the asset editor. The asset editor didn't even come out, so even the mods were basically very, I want to say, kind of like Tony Stark building a suit in a cave. People were doing the best they could with what limited resources they had. A lot of console hunting and going into the game files and doing things differently, but no actual asset editor where people could mess around with the buildings or the different types of structures in the game, whether it be roads or anything. Like when traffic was always a problem with City Skylines 1, and they never fixed it. But there were several really good patches and mods that were almost necessary for the game to progress. But downloading a mod to fix a big issue like traffic is fine, and it's kind of expected from such a big game like City Skylines 2. And we were kind of hoping the same thing would happen here, where all the holes in the game that were left by Colossal Order would be filled by modders. We never got the modding tools to be able to do it. And it's been slow. Mainly, it's just been little fixes here and there, new maps. Even the official maps that were released were very disappointing. And the new mechanics they introduced, if the game, while it is in a better place than it was at release, it still feels, for a game that's 2 years out from release, it feels like we're only a couple of months in. That's how disappointing it's been. And it looks like Paradox has actually fired Colossal Order. Now, there was a lot of speculation, and it's just hearsay stuff you'd read on the forums about how Colossal Order was very mismanaged, and a lot of people talking about how the leadership at Colossal Order was very under par. But knowing the gamer sphere in this day and age and how people approach any sort of news or rumor about any sort of game development company, and how things can blow out of proportion, and how everyone likes to spread rumors, basically baseless rumors, and it just keeps growing and growing. So we don't know how true that is. But they were struggling immensely. The console, I mean, if you were expecting City Skylines on console, at least on PC we got to play it. Console players still don't have a date on when it's going to release, and it looks like it probably won't. Now that they fired Colossal Order, they brought in another team. And this is the team that made not Surviving Mars, but what's the other one? Surviving Nuclear Waste, Surviving the Aftermath. They brought in this team. And while I remember this game being pretty well received on launch, but then Iceflake, that's the one. But development on it stopped very quickly after a few DLCs, and the DLCs were underwhelming as well. And in fact, most of the negative reviews are, don't buy anything from this dev, they'll never update or expand the game unless they can resell it for a full price. Typical Paradox scan game with billion DLCs. See, the DLC thing is bad, but at the same time, if the game is supported and if bugs are fixed, you kind of put up with it. I mean, you look at all the other, look at Crusader Kings 2 and Europa Universalis 4. There's and Stellaris, DLC still come out regularly for them, and people still buy them because when they actually expand on gameplay, people are okay with it. But yeah, people have their problems, especially with support after launch. So And from what I can see, this is their only real game. And before this, I believe, before these games came, my Surviving Mars was good. But even the remaster for that, although I don't think it's them who made it, but the remaster for that is also heavily voted negative. Well, not negatively, but I think it's mixed, isn't it? Surviving Mars relaunched. How are they doing? It is mixed, but 41% mixed, so it's almost at negative. And a lot of these are criticizing that a lot of the bugs from the original release weren't fixed, and there are new systems that were added, but the old ones weren't fixed up, and it's clearly not worth the value, which I can understand. So, will this save City Skylines 2? I don't know. I don't think it will. I think we're nearing the end of this, and Paradox clearly wanted to keep the franchise because it's their best-selling franchise. I was actually shocked. They've actually here, best-selling Paradox interactive games. It's a chart, which I was very surprised by. I know I should have probably done all this before, but here's the charts. So, apparently, this is the list of how much their games have sold. And it's actually insane how much both City Skylines and City Skylines 2 have sold. The actual. Oh, if you go in with a subscription, you can actually see the sales prices, but this is in order of sales and the amount of units shipped. So, yeah, like I said, it is surprising that it was their most popular game. I wasn't really expecting it, but there you go. So, Colossal Order before they leave, and they're leaving at the end of the year, and Ice Flake's going to take over, but it looks like they're going to release, and that's here, they're going to release a couple of more DLCs that they promised with the Premium Pass. So we're getting a bike patch, we're getting supply chains, apparently these things in December, and then they're done. And everything else after that, we have no idea. You can feel free to come onto the Paradox Plaza forums. I'll have a link to this thread in the description so that you can come and read this yourself. They've answered some questions, but it's very corpo speak. It's very, we want the best for the series and we'll be doing our best, etc., etc. But the truth is, Paradox wanted to keep the City Skylines franchise alive. They wanted to keep ownership of it. So they basically fired Colossal Order, it looks like, and brought in someone else to do it. And by the way, Ice Flake, the reason why they're selected, I think, apart from having a little bit of experience with city builders, is they're located in the same city as Colossal Order was in Finland, Tampere, Finland. Is it Tampere or Tampere? I always wonder. I should look that up. I'm just going to say Tampere because, and excuse me if I'm wrong. So maybe some of the people who worked on City Skylines will continue to work there and it's just more of a management shift. But I'll be honest, whenever this happens with games, it's never good. It never works out. It could just be that they work on this game a little bit, push a couple of patches out, and then quietly abandon it and start working on a City Skylines 3 that'll come out in a few years. So that's not looking, for us modern city builder enthusiasts, it's very disappointing to see. Well, the good news is Bike Patch is coming out in a couple of days. It's the 18th here, about almost 2 a.m. So it'll be, I mean, in a day and a half or so. So I'm very disappointed. I love city builders, and I was actually waiting for the game to be a little more playable. I was going to start a series on it, and the last bridges and ports patches made me actually really want to play the game. The thing is, when I think of the game, when I think about playing the game, I'm always discouraged by it, like, it's going to be a problem. And then when I see somebody else playing it, when I see a video of anybody else playing it, like City Planner Plays or whatever, I get really excited and want to play it myself. But again, and for me, especially with an older PC, the performance is a bit of a drag. So I was waiting for some news, and initially when I saw that there was news on City Skylines 2, I was excited to look at it, but turns out it's not great news. In fact, it's quite bad news. I personally have buried any hope I have for this game. It's unfortunate. I still got a fair number of hours. City Skylines 2, I think I played it for... Yeah, I played it for 160 hours. So if it's completely abandoned from now on, it's not the end of the world, but it just feels like there was so much promise here. It's more of a, not a financial letdown as much as a moral letdown. So I'm curious. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they fix it, but having another company come in, deal with the code and the assets of another company, I don't know how much of the old company is going to remain on the project, if there's going to be any of them on the project, how much more support is going to be given, or are they just going to say, just work on a new game, push a couple of stabilization patches out, try to optimize the game a little bit, and then just abandon it. So we'll see. And the only thing that gives me a little bit of hope is a little bit of what I talked about in the first part, where Paradox's conduct has improved since their leadership changed from a couple of years ago. And this being their most popular and best-selling franchise means that it will get a lot of attention. I'm sure that they will try to pull it together. But I've never seen it happen. I've never seen it. Other studios have taken over franchises and made new games into successfully, but I've never seen... I mean, another example, recent example from Paradox is the Vampires the Masquerade 2 situation, right? That's also Paradox. They initially wanted it to be... Well, before it was even a Paradox game, they tried to... It was in development hell for, I think, over 10 years at this point. They wanted to make a direct sequel to the first game, which was a story-driven RPG game. And for those of you who don't know, and while it was a mess when it was released 20 years ago, it was still, with patches and whatnot, it became a cult classic, and it's one of my favorite games as well. It's just... It was a very fun RPG to play, and it still holds up today. So if you haven't played it, take a look, but install the patches. But the second game was more of a game in the vein of maybe BioShock Infinite, or what was the name of it? Disavowed, I think the game was called. No, not Disavowed. It became more of an immersive sim, and those who played it, I actually had pre-purchased the game about 6 years ago, and I had even forgotten that I had the game in my library until recently. And I tried playing the game. I even started to record a video on it, and it just didn't feel the same. I was very let down by it, and I remember scrapping the recording and saying, I'll wait for this to cook a little bit. But then it turned out that it had nothing to do with an RPG, and it was just... it was a fun vampire beatdown action game where you could jump from building to building and beat people up. But that's not what I was hoping for. That's not what anyone was hoping for, and it's definitely not what we were hoping for when we pre-purchased the game 6 years ago now. So a lot of people were disappointed in that. So that didn't go well. Again, that changed development studio several times, and then while the studio they gave it to did an excellent job salvaging that game, it still was disappointing because it wasn't Vampire the Masquerade. So they claim in the FAQ that the vision for City Skylines 2 will be the same as previously. So the actual developers couldn't do it. So how well are these new developers going to be able to do it? We'll see. I hope I'm surprised. There's a first for everything. Never say never, but at the same time, it's tough. So this was overall a sad bit of news that hit me today. I just wanted to share my thoughts on it. Not that it's very important. And I'll be following this closely. If any other news comes out, I will talk about it. I will also be talking about city builders in general. I've played a couple on the channel now. They're not the most popular games, I will say, views-wise, but I still do love my... what was it? Cities? Metropolis? Metropolis. City-State Metropolis. Apparently this is coming out in Quarter 1 2026, and it's by a solo dev. I don't think this is coming out in Quarter 1 2026. It's a very ambitious project. As a 40-year-old gamer who's been playing games since I was like... My first memories are playing Prince of Persia on our very old computer, and I think I can vaguely recall little images of playing Space Invaders on a system before that my dad borrowed from a friend of his way back. We're talking 80s here, but they're not clear. But I've been gaming through all my life. I've been surprised by and also been happy with a lot of games that I had high expectations for, and they delivered. But I've been disappointed by just as many, if not a little bit more. And this just screams like a very good concept, an excellent game on paper. But will it actually be good upon application? We'll see. The previous titles in the game, well, not bad, not great either. We'll see. But the future looks bleak for modern day city builders. City Skylines 1 was a great follow-up to what I think is still the best city builder I've ever played, which is SimCity 4. I love that game. The soundtrack, the vibes, but I also love SimCity 3000. I also love SimCity 2000 and the first SimCity. I've played every single one of them, even the bad and the last Maxis EA one that came out about 12 years ago now. And while City Skylines 1 basically danced on the grave of SimCity and gave us a great game for 10 years, looks like now the potential dancer on the grave is going to be City State Metropolis. I hope I'm wrong about this as well. I am a little pessimistic. I've been disappointed by games a lot, but we'll see. I really hope it does come out, and it does come out in a good spot so I can play City Builders again. We'll see how it goes. So that was the good. Regular updates. That was the bad. What happened to City Skylines 2? And now for some speculation. Now this is pure speculation. Now I'm just talking off the top of my head, just talking based on patterns, but Path of Exile 2 is my favorite game of the last year. I love it so much that a lot of people disagree with me from what I've seen. Not with me directly, but my views directly. If you look at Reddit or any of what the big streamers in the Path of Exile space will tell you, Path of Exile 2 has kind of killed Path of Exile 1 for me. It just doesn't feel as good. I barely played Keepers of the Flame, even though it looks to be a very fun league. People are complaining about that. Oh, the end game isn't good enough. There aren't enough drops. I don't really buy any of that from what I've played. It's fine. But I also I'm not very compelled to play it for too long. I just feel like the gameplay offered by Path of Exile 2 is a little more richer. I like the combat a lot more in Path of Exile 2, and I see the potential there, and I'm frankly hyped for it, and I just can't get myself to play the first game as much anymore. Maybe I will resume it. Also, we had a lot of game releases these few days, so I haven't really managed to play it that much. But at the same time, I'm also not buying into a lot of the doomerism with relation to the game. I'm sure the game is fine. Most of the people I know who play the game love it. It's just a few very, very, very high-end gamers that seem to be unhappy with the drop rates. But it feels like those people are unhappy about the drop rates in any league. It's generally, there's a very vocal part of the game who never likes any of the leagues and any of the patches, no matter what, even though they play it 18 hours a day by their own admission. They just always criticize it, and I get it. It's fine. Gamers are a fickle bunch, and we sometimes have unrealistic expectations. I was certainly one of those people when I was younger, and I guess I've only grown out of it fairly recently in my old age. But coming back to Path of Exile 2, it's what I'm excited for the most, even though it's still a little disappointing for me because I am a strictly melee man. I love my melee. I love my big hammers, my big swords, my big axes, and all that. And Path of Exile 2 only has what you would call 2 melee classes at the moment, and only one of them actually pure melee. The monk is melee, but at the same time, there's a little bit of elemental magic going on in there as well. The attacks, it's very fun in its own way, but it's not as satisfying as just hitting things with a two-handed melee weapon. So for me, the biggest excitement, or a dual wielded, there still isn't a proper dual wielding class, I think, in the game. Like, I'm really looking forward to daggers, looking forward to big swords, axes, and such. Generally, my favorite class templates are just the Raging Barbarian, and the Templar / Paladin types, and then followed by the Rogue. Give yourself a sword and a dagger or two daggers and kind of just poison everyone or crit everyone to death, backstab, and so forth. Those are the main classes I like, and so far I can only really play one of them. I also like monks, I also like hand-to-hand combat, and we've already got that, and it looks good, and it was fun. But, so I'm waiting for the new classes to come out, and unfortunately, so these are my expectations, right? The new patch is going to have druids in them. This is pretty much all but confirmed. It was supposed to be in the game since the very start. Druid was one of the first classes they showed off initially in ExileCon, I think 3 years ago at this point. Either 2 or 3 years ago. And apparently the shape-shifting aspects of it weren't good enough. The art didn't, and the animations were still being developed. So we didn't get it, and it was supposed to come out last patch, but they weren't happy with it, so they delayed it until this patch. And I think the expectation for the Druid is so large. It seems to be a fan favorite. People really love Druids in ARPGs and RPGs in general. I don't. Shape-shifting does nothing for me. I don't really care about that kind of stuff, but you know, it's a new melee class, so I will be trying it out, but I'm not too excited about it. Now, if they release Templar, that would be a different story. I would happily play Templar. I would love to play Templar, but I think we're only getting one class, and that'll be the Druid. Because if you release 2 classes, you have to release twice as many new skills, new gems, new supports, and it's going to be a mess. And we've got a Christmas break coming up. Those of you who've been following me will have noticed that I mentioned that I don't even believe the next season of Path of Exile 2 is coming out until January, and I'm still a little iffy on whether it will come out early December like they want it to be. They state here that they plan to keep their timetable going, their 4-month release schedule, which means that we should be getting the game at the very start of December, which, you know, we're almost there. And Christmas starts on the 25th, 24th, so most people are going to be off these 2 weeks, possibly even 3 weeks. Generally, in New Zealand and what I've seen Path of Exile GGG do, they take long breaks, and so I think we're not going to have them in office for 3 whole weeks, starting from the 22nd. So ideally, and to avoid a situation last year when they released it, they released the game and then they went on holiday 2 weeks after release, and it was a big mess. People were very upset with it. So logically speaking, if I were them, I would want to release it. It's always a Friday release for us, so I would expect them to release it on the 5th, which means that we generally get news on the announcement trailer the week before, and we get an announcement of the announcement the week before that, so 2 weeks before the actual release. So if this Friday or Thursday we get any sort of information about the release trailer, which will, if it's going to be on the 27th or 28th, then I guess they're going for a December 5th release, and I'd be looking forward to it. But I would still not be surprised if they say, look, we don't want to release the game and then go on holiday, and if it gets delayed until, I don't know, probably like the 16th or the 15th. But I don't think they want to do that because they want the sales, the end of year sales, the Christmas sales. I believe they'll want to do that. So maybe they'll push it through. And the reason, and because they're going to be pushing it through, I don't think we'll get more than one class. So it's going to be Druid. I don't think we're going to be getting a new act. I think it would be getting Act 5. There's only 2 acts left, and I think they'll release the last act with 1.0. So I don't think we're going to get Act 5. These are my predictions anyway. We're not going to get Act 5 in the next patch. But the patch after this one, so if this one is 0.5, sorry, if this is 0.4, 0.5 will have Act 5 and the Templar, because there's a theme there. We'll be fighting the Templars more in Act 5, and then why not release the Templar itself during that act? So for this, we'll just get the Druid, no new act. I imagine we'll finally get the 3rd Ascension Trial, which is Tota, which for those of you who don't know is kind of like Dota or League of Legends, but in Path of Exile. And it was fun when the Path of Exile 1 League came out. I played it a lot back then. And it's a lot of fun. I'm curious to see how well it's implemented. It was done fine as a league mechanic, but you kind of did want a little bit more depth, and seeing as it's going to be a core part of the game for Path of Exile 2 and not just, you know, just the league and then something we'll never see again, I expect it to be a lot deeper. So I'm excited to see what they cook up. I expect them to have Tota. So we're talking about Druid, Tota. They talked about a massive endgame haul. They already changed a little bit with it to test out some ideas and see what the feedback's going to be. So I expect them to change the whole endgame map system. And on top of that, there's a lot of talk about Delve coming through. Delve is an entirely different style of endgame, and it's there in Path of Exile 1. I personally have never engaged in it because there was so much more going on. I never really got into it, and I wasn't playing the game during the league when Delve came out, so, and the fossils and all that, it always seemed a little too confusing for me. But if Delve comes out for Path of Exile 2, you bet I'll be playing it extensively. I would really want to try it out. I'm even willing to play softcore SSF for a little bit just to get a taste of it. And along with Delve, of course, you're going to get fossils. For sure, you're going to get fossils and resonators and whatnot. And those are whole new crafting systems on top of what we already have. So they're going to have to change the endgame mapping system. They're going to have to change the Atlas tree, which is related to the endgame mapping system. They're going to have to do a lot of things with that. And on top of that, they're going to have to add... Oh, by the way, if Tota's coming in, it's going to also be an endgame thing. They're probably going to have its own boss and its own little... And so that's also technically endgame content, just like the Chaos Trials are, and just like the Sanctum Trials are. So this will be something similar, and there'll definitely be an endgame version of it, and endgame bosses to fight. So that's also basically endgame content. And on top of that, we're going to get Delve, possibly. That's a lot of content, along with a new class. I think that will be the scope. And frankly, for me, it's enough. I think that's just fine. And another prediction I'm telling you now, the 5 of you who are still watching this video up till now, 10 of you clicked on this video, 5 of you are still watching, and maybe only a few of you are actually interested in Path of Exile 2. Let me tell you, people are going to hate it initially. Do yourselves a favor, don't read the Reddit, don't watch any of the doom and gloom videos. It's going to be a mess when it releases, just like it is on every patch release, and then it'll get fixed in a couple of weeks, up to 3 weeks in, which is why I really hope they release it on December the 5th, so they have a good 3 weeks to work on it before they go on holiday. I do think with a patch, especially with a new class coming out, you don't want any big breaks coming in so that you can... Because if the class is released and it's not fun or it's broken... it hurts people even more. The way people responded to the Huntress when it came out in 0.3, it was brutal. Even though they did end up fixing it, a lot of people had stopped playing by then. And last year, when they released the game, made a couple of patches, and then went on holiday, people were furious. It was carnage. And then when the devs came back from holiday, I distinctly remember Jonathan saying, "We never want to do this again, so we'll plan around our Christmas breaks a little bit better." So all of this yapping to say, I hope it's a December 5th release. I hope we do end up getting... they do end up releasing the Druid, so we're finally free of that release. People get what they want, and we can focus on the classes that I want. Very... That's... I realize that sounds a little selfish, but I've had enough of all the Druid speculation. But I am excited for the endgame changes, for the Tota changes, for the... for Delve. All of those things will be cool, especially if they implement Delve a little bit earlier. If instead of doing like the interludes, if they manage to work in, so we start doing Delve before the campaign finishes, so we can either choose to do the interludes or do Delve, that would be great. But I'm not sure how that would work because they've tied very important game mechanics into the interludes. But you never know. Whenever I expect them to do something and they end up doing it, they always end up impressing me. I'm talking about GGG. So I'm very curious to see what they end up. And basically what I'm trying to say is, it's the 18th of November. Never date your videos, they say, but again, we're dating our videos like there's no tomorrow. This Friday, if we get an announcement about the announcement, so on the 21st, or the 20th or 21st, if we get an announcement of the announcement, which is likely to come on the 27th or 28th, then we can expect a nice early league. And in which case, next Friday, I'll be probably live watching the announcement trailer itself, watching the Q&A, getting myself hyped for the new season, because this is the thing I'm excited for the most right now. And Mountain Blade's new DLC, which will bring in the Nords and naval combat, but that's a whole other thing. We'll do that when the game actually comes out. I'll be covering that as well. We'll be playing a little bit of Mountain Blade when that comes out, and it actually comes out just at the perfect time on the 29th, at the perfect time to hopefully carry us over until the release of 0.5 for Path of Exile 2. So anyway, thank you for watching, everyone. Like I said, I just like talking about games, and I want to do these regularly. Let me know what you think. Let me know. Again, this isn't engagement bait. I genuinely would like to know what you guys think. If there's anything you'd like me to discuss within gaming, I'm more than happy to research stuff, research stuff. This was off the cuff, but I can prepare stuff as well. Anything you guys are interested in that I might be interested in covering, just let me know, and I'll happily try to do something with it, because I do love talking about things I love, and I do love gaming, and I do love talking about the games I love. But that'll be it for now. Thank you for watching, everyone. I appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.